Good evening. This is a work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. Today's work session will be concentrating on budget review and proposals from individual department heads. And then upon completion, we'll roll directly into our regularly scheduled board meeting. With that, unless there's anything the trustees have to bring up before, we'll start with Mr. Smith from the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations again.
Thank you.
So this is the budget for 23-24. Generally, we're not increasing our budget lines, even with the increases of most materials over the past few years. We're keeping within budget on most lines and plan to do so going forward. Some initiatives, the initiatives for our department: improve safety, reduce expenses, increase recycling, expand sustainable practices, maintain a reliable infrastructure, protect the public drinking supply, manage and maintain the fleet, maintain public right-of-way, respond, resolve constituents' concerns, manage city assets, improve emergency preparedness, response, and recovery capabilities, provide continuity of service during disasters. Now with the budget, I'll go through our divisions. We'll go through these and I'll just give you a synopsis of what we're doing, and if there's any changes, I'll let you know, or any increases. Mostly, just generally,
Page
we're...
11. If you want to follow along, it starts on page 11. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. There you go.
So shared services is supplies and repairs for all village buildings and repairs. You find that on page 11. There's not really much of a change on those.
Line 423 for utilities.
The utilities are common across the board that I'm trying to increase to catch up to where they should be. We've been,
We're trending right now at 71,000 through the end of April. The end of February.
Yeah.
That's only through January.
Yeah.
They're very behind in billing.
Okay,
Yeah, so it looks that way, but unfortunately,
Okay.
it's not that way.
And those, just stepping ahead in each, under, I believe, central garage or water,
Water.
there's a line for utilities as well, and there might be another one, but that's all the same percentage increase that we went.
The reason I was confused is I saw 70,000 through February, and I
Right.
thought it was kind of be close to the 85, but when you told me it's January, that threw
Yeah,
me.
Con Edison has slowed down on their billing, so.
Thank you.
All right. So on page 12, we have central garage, which is fleet maintenance and repair for the village departments, including DPW, police, fire, ambulance, and building vehicles. DPW's fleet is newer now than it appears to have been in a long time. This past year, we received a new pickup truck, bucket truck, and John Deere skid steer. We ordered a new garbage truck, a new vac truck, and a hybrid Toyota Highlander that we hope to have within the next year. The major thing under central garage is we've added a mechanic, which we did July of '22. We added the mechanic because we had a long-term injury and we needed another guy, so we need to add that into the budget. The only other increase would be the materials and supplies, of 5% increase.
And gas, diesel, is that? what you-
And gas, diesel is, yes,
More
I'm sorry.
trucks? Or is the reason you have, is the reason that is a substantial increase because of more trucks?
No, that's the price of the gas and diesel. We're at the,
I see,
yeah,
aligning with 21, 22, okay,
yeah.
got
So
it.
you're currently at like 130 spent through February, right?
Right.
For gas, diesel. Do you have like a schedule where you've estimated usage throughout the year?
I have estimated, I have a thing where I estimated it just based on what the prices were over the last year, because with the price increases, it's really difficult to tell what we've been spending. What I'm trying to do going forward is to actually, the system that we have, make it more accurate when people are fueling up, that we could keep better track of fueling. And that we're trying to do for the sustainable reporting as well.
Are any of the DPW vehicles electric? I think no, right?
No, the only thing that we have the hybrid Highlander coming, and nothing else is electric right now.
And we have diesel because they last longer or they're more durable?
They're
and
stronger,
they're
more
strong.
durable, and then-
Because I know diesel is more expensive than regular gas, right?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, but the diesel lasts longer for mileage wise, and the trucks are made for diesel, they're better.
Okay. No, I'm just thinking that will be worth it to spend the money on diesel and on the long run. It's like, you know, making a percentage, say, okay, well, we spend $20,000 in diesel over gas, so it's like,
I'll look and see what if there's a comparison
yeah,
for the size equipment that we use,
Yeah.
diesel for gas, and I'll get it to you.
okay.
Mhm.
Can you do me a favor and send me over that schedule for usage of fuel?
Mhm.
What do you think it's gonna be? I understand you can't estimate the pricing as well, but whatever your schedule is to get there, just a good practice so we know where we're spending, what we're accounting for. Thank you.
Kevin, and one more question, sorry. Where would the snow and ice treatments be? Would that be in?
That's coming up.
Oh, okay. I will wait.
So, page 22, street maintenance.
Can we, hold on 1 second,
Yep.
sorry. On shared services central garage, you crank up materials and supplies, about 5%.
Yep.
But you're spending currently through February at about 130,000. Why the gap?
Those are also, a lot of bills are catching up. A lot of stuff that we bought, it seems like that's lower than it should be. The, what page was that, 12?
It's on 12,
So-
line 410,
Yeah.
1640.410.
So the one, you were at like 130 through end of January, and we're looking at 190, the actual is 200. So I mean, it's kind of close.
Well,
We're
it's just,
not that far off.
it's just whenever I see a large, you'll see me throughout. That's would be one of my
Yeah.
questions. Whenever I see
Before-
someone asking for an increase, but their spend is not necessarily where I think it is against
Right, in years,
a calendarized year,
right.
I'm just gonna ask the question of why. That's
In
just,
years past, it was, they went over that line significantly, and we've kind of gotten it under control. But with the increases in materials, I think we need a little bit more to catch up.
Okay.
It's not as significant as it could be.
And the last one is software maintenance. That line increases.
Software
Is that a piece
maintenance,
of software you're buying?
we're sending out a lot of equipment to be diagnosed, because we just don't have the diagnostic equipment. It's just basically like software that goes onto almost like a tablet.
Thank you.
Plug in.
Yep, that makes
So I
sense.
want to update those.
Yep, I'm just trying to understand where it comes from. Once I see it, just want to know. Thank you.
Street maintenance on page 22. Street maintenance takes care of roads, curbs, sidewalks, cutting and cleaning, road's edge at some of the streets and village properties, street signs and road markings, and then that's most of it.
So if you want to add the same question, if you're asking for an increase, well, actually, you're asking to keep equipment services for street maintenance, if we haven't spent anything this year on it? Is that someplace we should be reducing the budget?
Equipment,
50,
He's looking
Lisa
at
rental?
.2. He's looking at .2 at the top.
.2 equipment?
.2 equipment.
5,000.
We did spend money there, but it just wasn't allocated from there. We'll That was, I added that last year to get some battery-powered equipment for the spring, like blowers and such, because we're not supposed to be using gas blowers in the fall when they're banned as well.
Yep.
And that I'm getting those are coming.
Okay. One question on chips. Do you have any planned uses of chips this year, or is that
Yes.
gonna roll into next year?
I'm meeting with somebody tomorrow about microsurfacing, and I've joined the other Rivertown villages in a paving program that they're going out to bid, so we could all get one. So I have a couple of streets online for that, depending on their prices.
Yes, I think we all have a few streets that we should discuss. I know close to home, New Broadway has had a promise for some removal of some lines. I know
New Broadway
there's a
is-
few places in Leonard's that have a few places that need to be handled.
Yeah,
So if we
that's what I'm
can,
meeting with tomorrow.
so if you can get us a list of where you're thinking so we can have a discussion, because I know that's a 100% reimbursement program, if I remember correctly. It's a great way of, spending money that doesn't cost us anything. So a good way of fixing streets or places. So if we know places we need to do it, they're not state roads, make sure you send a note to Mr. Smith.
And can I just interject? There is a revenue line for exactly the same amount on page 55. So, when you see 290, it's like, oh, 290 in expenses, but you have the revenue of 290 on page 55. So if we reduce that, then we would reduce the revenue. So it's revenue neutral.
And is the actual just catching up for that? Because I see we allocated money in '22.
We didn't use it. So
Chips.
if you don't use it, it just rolls over. And so part of that 265 is really in that 290.
Got it.
All right, so I'll ask the silly question. If it's revenue neutral, what's the cap on the reimbursement? There must be one.
They give it to us. That's.
Oh, they tell us the
That's-
number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
that's
really-
the
we
number
spend-
that we
we
I
just
was
spend
gonna add
that
a few
amount,
more
basically.
commas.
Yeah, if we can get like a milling machine, as I understand, you tell me, you're the expert, we can do it all in one block, we can do it
Yeah.
more consistent, like you said, with other communities, it just saves money and gets it done faster, right?
Yeah.
Cheaper, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's the manpower that we lose. We don't have.
What are the list of projects you can put underneath chips, just out of curiosity, from a high level?
Mostly, it's more than just, CHIPS falls under 3 different programs. There's a EWR, which is more for potholes. There's also a pothole patching program and then there's, the other 2 are for mostly street paving, repaving, or microsurfacing, or there is an amount that we can get for equipment too, but it's a little more difficult to get that, but we could get it. And then for rental of equipment as well, we could take out of there. And there's a formula that they have for each municipality to give them X amount of dollars each year from the state.
Um, 466 are me maintenance contracts with 0 expended and a 10,000 renewing.
I have to look into what that was again. What maintenance contracts would be under street maintenance.
And then the last one is,
Oh,
Was that more?
for dumping, street lighting, separate.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I'll look and see what that came out
you
of.
can come back to us.
It might have been for the pothole killer that we did last year.
Oh, right,
Yeah, we didn't do it this year.
that's right.
That was a
That
truck
was a
that
shared
came.
service program we did with the other villages.
Okay.
Problem was, some of the villages dropped out, and it was becoming much more costly than originally.
For the price, we
It
got,
wasn't worth it.
with it spent 2 days here and all it did was along Pecanico and nowhere else. And if you drive over Pecanico now, you're bumping around anyway.
Yeah, it never really filled it in smoothly
Right.
either.
I didn't like it, I didn't think it was worth the money.
I love the answer to push up professional development. Is there a plan for that? I see it's going from 3,000 to 10,000.
Yes.
Always love training people, but
Yeah, no, for this past year, we did training for the cat backhoe that we have, the new backhoe we got a year and a half ago. And we were only able to do 4 or 5 people because it was so expensive. It drained our entire year of professional development. So I want to increase that so we can do more than just that, and also bring Cat back to do some more training.
So heavy equipment, light equipment training, basically.
Heavy equipment, light equipment, and safety.
Sorry, guys.
Are you doing any training around landscaping associated with the Riverwalk?
That would be under parks.
That would be
Under
Matt
par-
Road.
It's
Yeah.
not, okay,
That's a good question, though. We should.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Now we're at snow removal.
Yeah.
We respond to any snow or ice event or emergency that may cause any kind of safety hazard. When it does snow, or we get called out to all ice events. At the facilities we clean, we use sodium chloride. That doesn't track through the buildings. After a little research, we were able to find a product that works at a significant savings and doesn't track through the building. We're not really doing anything with this line. We think, I mean, even though it doesn't snow, or we can't really count on that, so. I did decrease our allotment for salt for next year a little bit, so that should be a savings there, but we'll see what next year brings us.
So what you bought this year, you can just stockpile it for next year and use it for next year, right? Like you have
Yeah.
left over, it's still good to use?
Yeah, and we'll probably have to get more because we have to get a certain amount,
Mhm.
but we have until the end of the year to get it.
Yeah, I guess that was my sort of question too. All the lines really related to snow removal. Since not much was expended, you know, how much of the savings can be carried forward? You know, I see we have the contractual expense, 110K, is that was seemingly not expended, so therefore savings?
Should be, right? We're not,
If we commit to salt, though, you have to buy what you committed to.
no,
You've already committed
Yeah.
for next year.
yeah, but it's not gonna be all of that.
Yeah, so you tell me,
Right.
if we have
You
that
have
exact
to
number,
pur-
we can reduce it to that
You
number.
have to purchase a minimum amount of salt. So even though we have a lot left over from this year, for next year, you have to purchase a minimum amount, so that's why it's still in there.
Got it.
But to answer your question, close to 100,000 goes back into the fund balance because
Okay.
because it snowed one time this year.
I see. All right, yeah, of course, yep.
On the
Thank
same,
you.
sorry.
No, I just said thank you, yep.
On that same point, if we're seeing a lighter snow year, why are we raising personnel services and overtime by 10,000?
Because most of the snow happens on overtime, and I don't, from even last year, I don't think our overtime has the right number in it, and it always looks like we're going really high because we don't account for how much we are going to do.
Yeah.
And I get that idea, but looking back until 2018, your actual expended overtime for personnel services is trending right around $50,000, right? I mean, do you have 1 year, 2020,
Right.
2021, which is 76, throw that as the outlier, you know, 46,000, 24,000, 76,000, 39,000. Seems like 50,000 is a reasonable hedge in the middle for adjusting that, in my opinion. Open to the board's opinion. We are looking for savings this year, so I'll throw that out there.
All right.
All right, let's plan on dropping that back to last year's number. Worst case, if it doesn't happen, then it comes out of the general fund balance if we run over, or any other contingency number, right? Thank you.
So next on page 23 is street lighting. Street lighting is, the maintenance or repair is contracted with Morabito, but DPW purchases and supplies all material. We should see a savings as the LED project goes along.
How many are you planning on replacing this year with this budget?
160,
160. How many do we have?
about 300, less than 300.
It's about 50% this year.
Well, I want to do all of the Cobra heads, which are the ones around the village, and then the decorative, move on to the decorative in the coming years, because
Thank
they're
you.
significantly more expensive.
Is it 300 Cobra heads?
No, there's 160.
Oh, so this is.
So it's
okay,
half,
this is
like
all-
50% is overheads.
All the
then
Cobra
there's-
head, okay.
And are these the same strength of that one that I showed you at the top of Continental?
I think I'm gonna adjust it for that kind of area,
Yeah,
and then the business district make a little more like that.
yeah, okay,
That's the plan.
that makes sense, because I'm just thinking, most of those are residential, except for the business district.
Moving on to page 35, which falls under us, shade trees. We're responsible for tree planting and maintenance. We received a new bucket truck last month, and we're now able to catch up on a lot of pruning that was lacking for the past few years. We increased this budget line last year to plant more trees, and we've accomplished a lot of that. And we're gonna get back into planting now that it's warmer.
Trees are good.
And so you are allocating money for that because you were not using someone, you were not using personnel for the truck bucket before.
Well, we
Are
still
you
have to.
allocating someone specific just for that, or you just have
No, the
moving
only
someone
person-
from?
The only, unless it was significant pruning that was causing, that would have caused a life-threatening condition, the only contracting we did was for full takedowns, which we don't have the personnel to do that, or the equipment, so we still contract out for full takedowns, and that comes out of this as well.
I'm just thinking that, that can cost also like overtime and everything in labor.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
yeah. But that, I mean, that's the labor is more emergency. Any trees that fall down in the road and everything that would be out of that. So moving on to sanitation on page 39.
I just want to ask you a quick question.
Yep.
I wish Sean was there, but are we getting any kind of contribution from Edge related to trees or landscaping or maintenance of parks, anything like that? I thought that there was.
Coming with the parcel one.
It's a future, it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's a bond, it's utilities, but there's,
You mean on their site? Where-
well, on
it's
their
for what
site,
they're
or,
doing.
maybe they are contributing to some, the fund in general.
No.
Okay.
It was a discussion.
I do remember that a few
There
years
was a
ago.
discussion, yeah,
Yeah, okay,
but something that we'd have to have that discussion with them.
yep,
There's
All right.
other things.
all right. Added to our list of asks.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Question, are we responsible now that we've turned over the streets at Edge? Are we responsible for the strip, the planting strip, where the street trees are, or are they still responsible for that?
That's a future discussion, and we
Yeah.
don't own the property, we don't own them yet. We haven't closed yet,
Oh, okay.
but that's a future discussion with regards to how those get maintained.
Is that, so like on Chestnut, they call it like a death strip, because everything in it dies. On Chestnut, for example, or DePeister, wherever there is that planting strip, who's responsible for that? Is it us, or is it the homeowner?
Between the sidewalk and the road?
That's us,
It's us, is it always us?
typically, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Is it common practice that the village handles that, or is it mostly the homeowners that
Unless
handle that?
there's a homeowners association that'll take it, like in the case with Edge, with the properties down there, it's generally on the municipality and the public right of ways.
Property owner is responsible for the sidewalks in front of their property, but something like that would be our responsibility to maintain the trees and things like
When
that.
there's a tree on it or close to it,
Yeah,
it's the
so-
village's responsibility.
Maybe 11 feet or something like that, right? 10 feet for a tree or something. Is there an HOA? There are a couple of HOAs at Edge, right? All of them are, right?
Sketchy ones.
3 or 4, yeah.
Well, with the Edge dedication, that's what the bond is. It's so
Okay.
that they're basically hiring them back to take care of the property that they've been taking care of with the trees and stuff like that. That's kind of the idea.
The reason why I bring it up is it's a favorite dog walking spot, and all the nice green grass that was there is now dead. So if it's our responsibility, I hope it's not, but if it is, I think we have to think about that. Like, does not look good.
I can tell you from personal experience in front of my house that the dogs enjoy my lawn a lot, and my lawn is dead.
Yeah.
And I'll clarify why I call them sketchy. I understand that the homeowners associations at Edge are currently controlled by the developer, not by the homeowners. So
Right.
to me, that's not a homeowners association,
That's a very good clarification.
therefore sketchy.
It's a weird situation.
I think one of the reasons why it's taking so long for the village to take streets and then right of way and the parks is to iron out all those details.
Okay.
But we will be responsible for a lot of this stuff moving forward.
There's also
All
a
of it,
lot, I think, I don't want to speak to this more your department, but it's more of also acquiring the expertise that would be needed to care for some of the ornate plantings on some of those parks.
Which they currently have, and
Yeah, and they have that.
They also, they're responsible for,
Yeah, they're
responsible for the trees. They guarantee the trees, they guarantee plantings, so I think for 2 years. So
Okay.
they'll still have to maintain those
I don't know about the grass.
regards. Grass.
Definitely, more baggies.
Let's go
and-
look at that. You good, Mr. Rodriguez?
No, I'm good.
Sanitation, page 39, we pick up all refuse twice a week, all recycling once a week, clean litter baskets 7 days a week, and bulk is picked up almost every week. Under sanitation, I don't believe we have any changes.
The major change you have is actually a reduction in the tipping fees, dumping fees, $465.
I did not put in for the reduction. That was it, right? My request was
Where
to
do you
keep
see
it the
that?
Which
same.
line? Yeah, which
Where do you
line?
see that?
465.
Point.
Bottom of page 39.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong line.
It's a reduction?
On the mayor's budget, it's a reduction
Oh,
from the
right.
request.
Yeah, from
That would have,
220.
yeah, so that was us that
That was,
knocked it.
that was you that did that.
It was me and the mayor.
And the actual expended, is that so low because it's behind or because we actually have spent that much less?
It's a little behind, but it's also lower, yes.
So basically, based on your estimation with the previous administration, we think we're going to come in underneath that.
The 210 is more along the lines, it's also the organics.
I was gonna say,
So
it's
the
like
more organics you pick up, the higher that number will be.
composting.
But isn't organics the same tipping fee as regular waste?
I don't know that much about it, but I know it's more costly.
I don't have that in front of me.
Yeah.
But, I did notice our numbers, our regular waste has gone down this year,
Huh.
so it might.
Is it possible a larger number accounts for, more units down at Edge? Getting more volume down there, or is that
No, I said
No.
it's, our garbage, our sanitation number's actually down this
down?
year.
Right, no, I mean, but for the request being higher. Whereas
No,
it
it's
would be the
exactly
same,
the
be the
same,
same.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it trending down over a couple years, like?
Yeah, if you look at the prior years, you know,
Yeah.
it was 150, 170, 175, 169. And then just looking at the amount of months we have left and looking
Yeah.
at, you know, the amount of organics that we've been picking up. So if we remain the same, that's the number we're looking at.
We adjust our recycling, which is zero cost a little bit, we focus on that, can we find another 10,000 there? I'm just asking a question, I don't know, I can have a schedule to look at.
I think the 210 is, you know, the number we saw, but we can talk about it more.
But it's probably people eating more out and using less their homes and travel more to the city and everything. That can,
Less eating at home.
Possible.
All right, moving along, onto water. Again, not much changing here other than the
44.
utilities. This is, I'm sorry, page 46.
Kevin, before you jump into that, do you also deal with the sanitation fund on page 40, I would think, right? I just noticed something, you have the 800 line, employee retirement, you have up 75 versus 50 last year. So I'm assuming there's more people retiring, in which case.
No, it's just their share became higher because we had less people coming out of there. So now we increase that share.
Okay,
Because each fund has a certain percentage that we take out of. So we increase that part.
okay.
It's not who's actually retiring, it's just the retirement bill's share coming out of that fund.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
The water fund on page 46. Responsible for all aspects of village supplied drinking water. They perform all testing and monitor chemicals needed to ensure that the water is safe for consumption. Monitor and maintain the pump station and the two water storage tanks. This department is also responsible for the village's water mains, valves, and fire hydrants. They investigate any possible water issues and repair anything that falls under village responsibility. The water department also installs, repairs, and replaces water meters. Again, that's the professional development was increased, and the utilities.
Did DEP raise rates? Like, I'm trying to understand.
I
why
didn't,
there's-
I didn't see a rate change.
They usually do every year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it
They don't
gets
go
raised
for it.
in July,
Yeah.
but right now we're trending a little shy of the number where the bills are coming in higher because of the excess rates. So that's why we raised the actual water purchase line.
So the water
It's like a-
purchase line, you're expecting to
Yeah.
trend higher.
Yeah.
Have we adjusted the revenue side of that in this?
It's always going to be the same because the fund has to balance out, so.
Part of
The
that,
rev-
part of that could be the edge impact too.
Right.
All right.
Oh, I understand what you mean, thank you.
Did we touch on consultants, 447? I just noticed it's been relatively low, and then we're way under for spend so far this year.
What page?
Which page?
45, water administration.
Oh, I think that's the skating people.
Yeah, that's more of a contractual in case, which we actually have to use to update our modems, but SCADA is one of the many things where it allows our pump station to talk to the water tank and all over. So if anything was to happen, we need to pay these guys to come out for emergency over weekends. We had one on Christmas, things like that. That comes out of this.
Got it. And it's just been low the past few years?
Yeah, I think like it was high in
18,
2018. That was
Yeah.
probably right before we got it updated last time.
Got it.
So with the wireless meter rollout, you expect it to be higher?
Not for consultants,
No?
no, 'cause we're doing that in-house.
Okay.
That's the consultants or the professional or contractual expenses?
447.
Oh, okay.
The contractual expenses, there's certain permits that we have to get from the county, and that's been going up since we have the new water tank. That's where that increase has come from, the 10,000 to the 25,000.
Will that change when the second tank comes online?
I think it includes the second tank right now.
It's still certified even though it's down.
Yeah, we still have to get certain.
Okay, thank you. Question, Lauren?
Nope.
Saw the pond rate.
Yeah, I think it's bigger than a line item though, so.
Fair enough.
Do we have to replace the fire hydrants eventually? Is there a limit in there, like a cap that we have to replace them?
No,
or fix them and
a lot
stuff?
of fire hydrants, we have a few that have been in for a very long time. We just replaced one that was in for 80-something years.
Okay, so this is like, that lasts a long.
No, that's why we do an inspection every, twice a year, do it in the fall and the spring.
I'm just thinking that because the water line is like over 120 years, so I'm
Mhm.
assuming that those might be that all as well, so.
Yeah, most of them have been changed over time, but there's nothing, we do the inspection twice a year and run them and make sure that nothing's leaking or anything. And if it needs to be changed, we change it.
Okay,
But we're not, there's no reason to change it if it doesn't need to be changed.
okay. Just don't want to get to the point, it's like, okay, I need to change 20 of them
No,
at the same
that's,
time, just like,
that's not gonna happen.
yeah.
I want to know that I did not ask for him to bring that up, but thank you. On the fire hydrant line, I'll bring it up. A couple citizens did ask about part-time repainting of some of them, some of the worst ones.
Mhm.
Because I know there's a lot of them that look like they're 175 years old, but really aren't.
That's all right.
That's one.
Historic.
Historic is a great word. And we have the opportunity to do something, we have the opportunity to do something that's on brand for us, like an orange. I mean, if we're leaning into Sleepy Hollow, right, a chance to start, some of our older hydrants as we repaint and redo. I know we talked about it, you said it's usually a part-time person you bring in?
I could have anybody repaint, but as far as the colors are concerned, we stick with the yellow and red that we have. It's like each village or municipality, you'll see they have their colors, like New York City's black and silver.
Yep.
And so that's what we stick with. Last summer, we've had some painting done, and we'll continue that when we free up some guys, when there's warmer weather consistently.
Thank you.
That's a good segue to your seasonal person that you want to hire.
So I want to think in the next couple of weeks, there'll be another seasonal in front of you. We still have money left over for a seasonal from this budget, and it's included in next year's budget as well, at the rate of $18 an hour.
I think we have in our agenda for next week, for the work session.
Sewer, page 50. As with the water, this division is responsible for maintenance and repair of all sanitary and storm sewers in the village. There are regular inspections and cleaning of the lift station on Riverside. Also inspections and cleanings of all catch basins, typical problem areas that could result in backups and flooding in roads and houses. And sewer, again, professional development. And then there's one other. Oh, the equipment maintenance and repair, we increased because that's typically been underfunded.
Line page 50, 462, that one?
Yes,
Oh, is that where the generator comes out?
the pump on Riverside, which we hope to have out of there, but we can't.
Yeah, it looks like you've been basically going over it pretty consistently. Is that a sign that we need to do something larger?
Well, yeah, we are. We have the plan for it. It's, we're waiting for material, and we're hoping that that works to solve the problem. But, I'd rather not assume. I'm also working on trying to get that bill a little lower, but again, we'll see what happens with that. And with that, that's all.
I have a couple questions on your Schedule 3. I'll go quick, I promise. Some of this may be just my lack of knowledge. We have a new position, an Assistant General Foreman. Was that a board resolution?
Yes.
Yes. What page?
I'm on page 63,
67. Oh,
I believe. Street maintenance. They're actually, that person may be multiple places, but I'm on 63 right now.
got it.
That's just street maintenance, right, I believe?
Yes.
Actually, I can go back, because I actually had a couple other ones. I noticed in the auto mechanic on page 60, the essential garage. Same question, that was something passed already. Page 62, that's safety inspection, that's the next person. All right, page 63, general foreman got that. Did we move a laborer or something
Yes.
between some street maintenance somewhere else, or do we have a laborer?
From labor to
We
heavy,
always change things around depending on where people are. So right now, that's where the person is.
Got it, okay. On that same piece, I noticed overtime is planned to be up 50% inside of this.
Yeah, we went up to 45,000 on overtime.
Where's that?
63.
63.
On the street maintenance side?
Yes.
Yes.
What was it at? I don't have it in front of me.
I think it was 25,000.
25?
To 45?
Yep.
The overtime that comes out of there is mostly, well, I don't see where it's at. The, it doesn't say where it's at now. That's just street maintenance. The
Might have
overtime
been
that comes
double
out of
time
there,
and overtime.
combined.
Yeah.
The overtime that comes out of there is for, I don't do a lot of overtime, scheduled overtime. We did some with leaves, but not a lot. I've cut that significantly, when the leaves are still getting picked up. Most of our overtime is from picking up litter baskets on Saturdays and Sundays, emergencies, or events.
Can you get back and see if we can bring that back down to where it was, $25,000, or $20,000, if we're not gonna need it?
If we're not going over it, I could bring it back. But I'll see if we're going over it.
For you to tell me why we'd be going up by that much, or what would be the reason for it. I don't need it today. 64, same thing, overtime on snow removal is up $10,000.
That would be the same thing, and just when it does snow, I feel it's something that we go over, and I think we should account for that and be ready for it as opposed to be over it.
Sorry, I went through a lot of comments hours. Did we change a MEO to something else?
Yeah, he went to signs and road markings.
All right, that was page 67, for everyone else following along. And, last question, the auto mechanic, you mentioned it earlier, that's the new person we had last year.
We have to add that, because that money's coming from other places right now for an MEO that I was supposed to hire last year. I held off on hiring the MEO to fill that position and pay for that position.
And then same thing under water and sewer, overtime is up 33%, part-time is up 15%, line 70. This is a preview of, unfortunately, we have a bit of a budget that we're gonna have to get to. So if you could take a look at the overtime and get us back to why for each of these, I'd appreciate it. I don't get it tonight, but that'd probably be the best. Thank you, Kevin.
Like I said, as far as the overtime concerned, and with water too, there's nothing scheduled besides our weekends, which isn't really overtime. I could go into their contract with you at some point, because it's a strange situation
Okay.
for their weekends, but it's not really overtime. A lot of the overtime is emergency.
It's the call-outs, right?
Yeah, call-outs and emergencies.
Understood. Everyone else go, Mr. Smith?
Well, one thing of note we didn't mention, you mentioned the water rates. We haven't raised the water rates since 2017. Something the board might want to consider. It's user, it's not a tax, it's based on usage, so something to consider.
Is that the line that you said it's a balance, it balances out to the water purchase though?
Yes.
So
And it doesn't.
do we need to raise?
And now I'm confused.
What am I missing?
That's what I was kind of asking about.
If it's a fixed rate, right?
We
How does it
we
balance?
put it in the budget to balance the budget, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we always collect that amount.
Got it.
So, the water rates can come in at an 8% or a 12% increase from New York City Water Board. We have not changed our rates since 2017. So, and it
I'm open
depends
to that.
on usage. So if people are not using the water, then, we charge less. So it really just depends on
Got it.
how much usage is coming in.
Can we have the
One of
last?
the,
Go ahead, please.
I was gonna say, one of the attorneys at our firm she represents one of the water districts in the county. They generally will increase appropriately. And, you have to also have an eye towards the infrastructure and what you're replacing, and as things go, it's not just a clean one for one.
Understood. I think.
It's not a revenue generator, it's generally,
Yes, but it has to be higher to account for
yes.
unbilled money, i.e. there's a fire somewhere, or there's a water main break, something along those lines.
Construction, there's
A lot of our capital expenses are water related.
Yeah.
And some of the general fund costs are paid for through the water fund, including part of my salary, part of Sarah's salary, and some others.
And so the water purchase was what, 1.4 million? So if we were to raise it, say 10%, 140,000 in, that's what we're talking about? I mean, if, I'm just hypothetically saying 10%.
well, we raised it from 1.2 to 1.4.
Right, but if we raised rates, that would gain us an extra on that number, right?
It's difficult to kind of give you a number because it's all based on a tier. And
Okay.
it's all, again, based on usage. It's really difficult to tell you if we raise it, how much we would get. Because again, we wouldn't know how much was gonna be used. So it's kind of like,
And if we were
let's
to,
guess.
if we were to raise rates, we can target particular tiers?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we've done in the past, like higher usage would be the higher rates.
Mhm.
So you're not, picking on people who are using the lowest,
And we haven't
Usage.
raised any of those tiers since 2017.
2017.
I think we should probably have we might need one more session somewhere. I'm sorry to ask you guys that, but maybe we should look at all fee schedules for a moment when they were raised and have kind of like the schedule you have here is they say, this has been this is where our costs have gone up on the inside, whether that's tipping fees for sanitation, whether that is water fees, recycling rates, organic recycling, whatever those are, we should take a look and say, have we been keeping up with the costs that come into the village? That could, as a cumulative time, be part of the reason we're seeing a little bit of a crunch here. Those are things that are nice because they're less impactful, people use less, more impactful, people use more. Right?
Quick question. Do rates pay for debt service associated with capital investments for the water system? Or does that go into like a general capital fund?
Your rates would be the revenue for that fund, so they would be part of the operating budget. So yes, they would cover whatever expenses coming out of your budget.
Are those capital expenses like segregated?
As
Yes.
a debt
Yes.
service for the,
Mhm.
for the water.
The water fund and the sewer.
Yes,
both
and
have it.
sewer and parking and yes.
Okay, so I mean, just having a report done on that, right? Like, what are the different components of the rate? Like, where does the rate go? Would be, I think, really helpful
Yep.
for this conversation. I mean, I'm just cognizant that we're bringing a lot of multifamily on board. And they will pay that higher tier because they'll be using more than other residents, correct?
I'm not, it depends on how, if their water bill is based on their home, they would be based on it would be based like everybody else, so I'm not sure.
Like the large commercial buildings would
Edge.
likely be paying in the high tier.
Well, it depends,
It
because
depends.
like
Some of them
11
are
River
metered.
is all
That's how they
individually
meter.
metered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But I think the problem with this is that if you increase the rate, it's possible they use less water, so then therefore we're not gonna get increased revenue, so.
But that's a good thing.
Good
Yeah,
point.
that is-
Conserve water. It's a way of getting people to
It's-
conserve water.
Yeah,
really
but
don't
that's,
know how they're going to react.
but we cannot count on the revenue that we're gonna create from that.
True, but we also don't have the expense of having to
I
buy
was
it.
about to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The costs go down then too.
yeah.
But we have to
Good
see
point.
if that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't really know until like after the first year.
All right, so we have 5 minutes, unless we have anything else for Mr. Smith? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's some areas where I think we could cut a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
part of what we have to do is, I think I'm gonna ask that we start putting together a running list, we publish after this, we can all review it, the places where we're gonna make adjustments in the summary, so just call them
That'd
out.
be great.
If I'm asked,
If you want to email me your thoughts, I can do that at the end. I do a changes sheet, and you can see what the impact is.
I prefer we vocalize them if at all possible, so people understand where we're asking to cut. I'm sorry, transparency, I can't force it, but I will
No,
ask
that's
it.
fine.
All right, I know we're probably gonna run a few minutes late on starting the Board of Trustees meeting, but we'll proceed through quickly, I'm sure.
Mine's 5 minutes, just asking a million.
Wonderful.
What page
So
are you
page,
on?
page 25.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody made the door.
Okay, so page 25, office supplies is 1,200 every year to our request. I'm requesting to keep it the same. So there's no changes on that. That is line 411 of page 25. Office supplies. And we also have the contractual expenses, which currently budget right now is 26,200. And I'm also requesting to stay the same, nothing has been changed on that. That's where we do most of our community outreach, events, programs. As of now, throughout the year, we have done over like 25 events, different ones, obviously environmental, arts, and others. With that money, we have purchased tents, tables, speakers. We also have paid annual memberships of programs. Thank you to the organizations and local individuals have volunteered and able to save some money when it comes to community outreach and presentations. We also use the money to pay professional fees when we have to do workshops that need professionals to present it. The other line that I'm requesting is the Sleepy Hollow Culture Festival that we do every year. That's page 32.
Any questions on
Any questions on those?
line 20, page 26?
Okay.
Do you have any outstanding costs that might show up for the rest of this fiscal year? Because it looks like you're at 16.
We have 6,000. I mean, I've been managing the budget very closely and I'm putting workshops accordingly, so we should be okay. No, planning to.
So you'd be like in the range of 22 something spent? by the end of this
No, I
year?
think it'll go around the same 25, 26.
Okay.
Yeah, right now there's no expenses that to go through there, so we'll
Okay.
be there. Page 32, we have the current budget for agriculture for festival is 10,000. I'm just requesting to be increased to 2,000 extra. Due to the expenses, especially when it comes, the prices for performance and sound systems are getting higher. Obviously, there is a huge impact in our economy. That is in terms of that.
Deanna, on that line, and then I have another question too. Cultural festival, so 10,000 was the budgeted number last year, but
Yes.
we spent,
17,849.
oh,
And-
this makes it look like we spent 5,591.
Because we had some money
Something netted
from
off of it.
vendors, sponsors, and all that.
Oh,
We
yeah, I
got-
saw that in your note, thank you.
Yeah,
I remember
5,250.
now.
Mhm.
I do have a question about the last line, 489. So does Sleepy Hollow underwrites the farmer's market?
Yeah, there was a small amount that was put in there for the farmer's market, but we didn't get any requests this year yet for that.
We will be.
Yeah.
Would they mention an email they'd want to come talk to us about it?
Yeah.
I
They're
think
gonna
that's
come
gonna
in
probably
this
be our
week,
next meeting, would be my guess. I don't know.
Fine.
Because I think that the email explained the support they get from Terrytown is like services, like DPW, all this other stuff.
Wouldn't that be in the DPW budget?
But
That's
we don't-
That's
Tarrytown.
Terrytown's.
No, I know, but if they're asking similar, like, or a
I
share from
don't think
us,
they're asking for the similar services,
They just
They
want
want
cash.
cash.
potentially.
They haven't given us a
I'm
number.
not gonna verbalize it yet, but I will later.
And we would like to put it in one place so we could see where it is and what it is, versus kind of bury it in another line.
Do we have
We'd
them on
like
the
to.
schedule? I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No. I don't know when they're coming, but, we would like to put it in this line so we know where it is and what we're exactly
fully
what we're
agree.
looking at.
And I love the farmer's market, but it should be self-sustaining.
What is the 1261 that has been spent?
Special events could be anything. You do Memorial Day, it could be part of, the street fair. There could be, I don't know exactly what that 1,200 is, I can let you know.
Yeah.
But we use that line for various special events throughout the village.
Got it.
It's not just the farmer's market, that's just, you'll see more stuff. We take stuff out for St. Patrick's Day, there's various things that would come out of that line.
And
This is just through February 28th.
And was there a logic in, because I'm just looking at historically, and then all of a sudden, 22, 23, the budget shoots way up, even though it looks like our expenditure is
I
way
know
up?
we had like bicentennial
I
money
think
in
that money,
there, there's,
that might have been because of the Irving bicentennial, some of the
Yeah.
events were planned. I know it was planned for 2020, but everything got pushed back, so I think that's why that number went higher.
And then we just kept it high this year?
in 22-23. In 22-23 it was 25, and then I think with all the other stuff, it stayed the 25.
And so, have we contributed anything to the farmer's market previously? Okay,
No.
so, okay, got it,
They,
There was an
they-
earmark in there, but we
Yeah.
didn't contribute.
okay,
I think they made a request, but not a specific request
okay.
prior to this budget being
Okay.
done. And then I reached out, I'm trying to meet with them this week. to
Okay.
know What they're asking for.
Anthony, since you are about to meet with them, I'm fine listening to a request. They should balance it with what are we getting out of it? Meaning, what are they gonna give to Sleepy Hollow? They should say those words to us.
I think they give some butchers for some of the people that will go and shop.
Perfect, yeah, something. That'd be good.
Vouchers for?
Yeah, for people that can go and can afford to pay the full price, so they can just be.
Perfect.
There is SNAP program, and I think they're the only ones for Westchester towards the higher SNAP program that they have.
EBT, yeah.
We also, this first year, it was the first year that we created a line which we have some income coming. where we try to cover some of the expenses of the supplies that we purchase, so we can reuse that in future workshops, and as of now, we only have collected 2,045. People were really in the community, really wanted to do the workshop, especially for the kids when it comes to arts, and they're willing to pay like, not a big price because they can afford it, but as little as they can to continue, to for these programs to continue. So we have charged a small fees for those. In total, we have 2,045. That's all. Have any-
Did you made the choice to institute that? We didn't request that.
That is, you know, some people wanted it to pay for it, so they make donations for it. Some
Got it.
people due to culture, they're taking more seriously about it, and they wanted to continue not to lose it. So we
Yeah.
just did it. However, we also, if families have a lot of kids and they can't afford them, we accommodate them, and we don't pay anything, or they just, we work on accordingly what the needs are.
Yeah, I think that's really,
We are very,
Great.
we're not here trying to make money out of it.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, so, but definitely we have done that.
right.
I mean, last time we did a workshop for 6 weeks and we only paid $5. I mean, that's like $1 for every
Yeah.
like workshop, so it's nothing, but it was good to cover the expenses of a lot of supplies that we needed those, which
Right.
now we're using it.
But if someone wants to donate, I think it makes.
Yeah, we pay them a fee, and if somebody likes, if, I have parents who are like, oh, I'll pay for that if they can't pay, you know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah,
it's
I think
things like
that's
that.
like a
Yep.
great thing,
Mhm.
okay.
That's all, unless you have any questions.
And then, just looking back at the personal services, that's the 33%, is a request there, back on page 25.
That request was not from Deanna.
Okay,
I think that's something we can talk about maybe after the board meeting.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless the board has anything else. All right. This is the called conclusion of the Board of Trustees work session for April 11th, 2023. Thank you, everyone. All right. Everyone ready? Jumping jacks, anything? Okay.
Coffee break?
Stretch.
And a big stretch. All right. This is a meeting of the Village of Sleepy Hollow Board of Trustees on April 11th, Tuesday, 2023. To begin, let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Continue with our ongoing traditions. We'll take a moment to recognize those we've lost from our community since our last meeting. First, we have Virginia Maxwell, 85 years old, from Campbell Way. I'm going to apologize for the pronunciation of Lorinda Piera, 92 years young, of Dell Street. She was a longtime resident of the village in North Tarrytown. Gary Bucci, 66, obviously a very well-known family in our community and a resident of our community for many, many years. And finally, Mark Santiago, the son of the pastor of Christian Santiago of the Rock of Salvation Church. Thank you. We'll begin by the continuation of our public hearing on the 2023-2024 Mayor's Operational Budget. At this time, I'd like to solicit any feedback from the community regarding the budget proceedings. All right, we will adjourn this public hearing again until 4:18. And at the same time, 7 p.m., and we'll continue to have those public hearings until the budget is passed. Next is the warrants. Can I have a motion for the review and approval of the motion, of the warrant as presented by our treasurer?
Motion to approve the warrant.
Seconded.
Discussion, did everyone have a chance to review? Any questions? I had one item, if I remember correctly, was regarding the skid steer. Sorry, it was the only number that was a big one, 60,000. Was that part of capital? Was that somewhere else?
That's definitely part of the capital fund.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, anything that has an H is capital.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of passing the warrant?
Aye.
Total?
Aye.
That's 5 yeses. Opposed? Any abstentions? Passes.
Thank you.
Review of the minutes. We believe we have attached the minutes from the meeting of 4/4 to our packets, which also now, we're trying to make these available to everyone as they come in. So if outside the door, they'll have a packet, it'll also be online. If you need a packet, you need to have a chance to print it out, Paula can print one for you. Can I have any additions or amendments to the minutes?
Move adoption of the minutes of April 4th, 2023.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 5 yeas. Any against? Abstentions? Passes unanimously.
And what happened to March 28th?
I accidentally erased them off my computer.
Okay.
See, that was one that's before me, so. don't have to worry. All right, mayor's announcements. One quick announcement, the community wardrobe is accepting spring and summer clothing days, and sometimes below we'll attach this to the minutes, but it's going to be Wednesday, April 12th from 12 to 2, the 13th from 12 to 4, the 14th from 12 to 6. Oh, sorry, I apologize. That's to help organize their inventory at those times, the 13th, 14th, and 12th, 13th, and 14th. They're accepting donations on Saturday, the 15th, 12 to 2, Sunday, the 16th, 2 to 4, the 19th, 8 to 9, to 10 to 2, the 20th, 6 to 10. Any donations or assistance, I believe the address is 222 North Washington Street. Any questions, you can see their website and other things in as part of the attachment. It's a great opportunity to get involved in the community and support people as part of our who need help or assistance. I did want to say thank you to everyone who's listening for taking the time. It's going to be a little bit different with budget and everything else, and we're running a little over and a little under. I appreciate your patience as we try to get everything put together during transition, so thank you. All right, we'll move on to budget presentations. I'm going to start, as my general preference will be, to the volunteers who spend their time and give it. So, Ms. Martello, if you could please come up and support the Sleepy Hollow Ambulance Corps, volunteer ambulance corps.
Thank you.
You're going to have to tell us what page you're on. Sorry.
Page 20.
Thank you.
I don't have that, so mine's a different page. But I think it's the same thing. Let me know when you're ready. Good. All right, so for the equipment line, we're gonna keep it the same at 6,500. For materials and supplies, I increased it by 500, which is just the normal increased cost of items. For office supplies, keeping it at 1,200. For uniforms, we're increasing it by 500, which is just, again, the same thing, normal increased cost of items. Cleaning supplies, snow watch, cell phones, utilities, all staying the same. Professional consultant is a large increase. That was, you guys had approved the increase in the paid staffing with Ossining attached as their breakdown. I don't know if you guys have it this breakdown.
No. That's what you said.
That was part of what I had emailed today, so, or yesterday.
So on the attached is the breakdown from Ossining Ambulance Corps. There's, if you remember, and to fill in Martin, it was an increase. They're paying their employees more, as well as New York State mandates, like mandated sick leave for per diem employees, which is mostly what we have. So it was a large increase, which is what's increasing that by so much. The vehicle maintenance, we're keeping the same. Equipment maintenance, keeping the same. Building maintenance, keeping the same. Software maintenance, keeping the same. Membership subscription, I dropped down to 0 because we don't have any subscriptions. Professional development's the same. Medical services is the same. And the contractual expenses, I increased by 2,000, which would encompass the cost of doing another open house. That cost just a little bit to kind of have all those events and things that we had with the fire department and the police department. And then also attached is the money that we took in from doing the billing services. So that's the last 2 or 3 pages, 2 pages, is the money we received from that.
This is the soft billing from,
Yes, from Proclaim.
Yeah, sorry,
this is revenue coming back to the village.
from the insurance companies, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Basically 190,000 in revenue this year, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Is that year to date? Just trying to understand.
It was for 2022, but it's not always accurate. Some people pay months late. It's just what they received in 2022.
Is this
So that's
consistent?
calendar year versus,
Yeah.
Is this kind of consistent for us?
It's increased.
yeah.
We increased the rates, they're getting more calls. I think on the revenue, we have 150,000, we probably can increase that.
I would suggest we do. If we're seeing an upward trend, can we move that to 190?
Sure.
We could do that.
I'm wondering with the EMTs, as that number kind of creeps up, is it worth considering a way that we can simply have our own EMTs cover those? Obviously with that as compensation. I don't mean the same people, I'm just meaning, do we, hire more EMTs?
Not really.
I don't mean for this year, but I mean consider it.
OVAC provides all the benefits and,
Yeah.
They have a full team of EMTs that they could provide, so we never have to worry about them showing up every day.
Got it.
Whereas our chief would be the one managing all the EMTs and scheduling them, et cetera, so I
Okay.
think this is worth it.
It's worth it, okay.
One of my other villages did an analysis on this, and even with the increase, OVAC is substantially less than a lot of the other districts.
Got it. Okay.
My
Seems- I was gonna say, I seem to recall having the same discussion last year. It's all right. I'll probably do it again next year.
Not that I'm suggesting it, but I think the time to move it, if we ever had to move to a paid fire department, and you have a paid fire department, there are also EMTs, that's a requirement, and then you consolidate services.
Got it.
Not that that's on the plan, it's anywhere else, throw it out there. Sorry, personal branding, be in trouble there. Any other questions for Mr. Martello? Chief Martello? There's someone who's raising their hand behind you. I'm sorry. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Did the Honorable Justice,
She's running a little late.
running late? Okay, we'll park her for now. Mr. Chief Boetti? the police department. Sarah, what page is the police department on?
Page 14.
I managed to get every page out of this one.
You memorized it all?
No, it's clearly, they're all on.
How you feeling?
And here's your little clip.
Yeah. Who's bad?
Go ahead, chief. Thank you, sir.
And this one, I don't have a personnel line. What did you do? It didn't print out. So, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Really, the major significant increase was on page 14, the 464 software maintenance line. And that was essentially the body worn cameras being switched over from capital into operational.
So basically that cost is going from about 36 to 72 as it's no longer, born from a previous paid item. Is that consistent with what we see in other departments?
Yes. Yes. Unless you want to
I
keep.
will fully disclose, I had a discussion with Chief Boetti earlier, so I know the answers, but sometimes I like to voice them.
So, that was really the major increase. The one, what I would ask for the board consideration would be to hire 2 additional officers in January at the academy rate. So 2 officers in January would be an additional $63,457. As you know, we're a growing village, and our needs are definitely expanding.
Chief, would they at all be replacing anticipated retirements?
We have 1 officer that has expressed interest, but hasn't confirmed.
Got it.
Is that currently requested inside of this proposal?
It is not. It's in addition to the proposal.
I'm gonna guess that I'm personally not ready to discuss that. Not that I'm for or against it, I guess I'm uneducated enough to know more unless someone has an opinion on it at this moment.
What's the timeline on that when you need to have an answer for it? Because I know they have to go to the academy and it starts in August. No, it's, you want January,
No,
sorry.
yeah, we wouldn't have enough time to get till August, so
Okay,
now
so
for
it'd be the
January.
January one. Okay, so what would, when would you need to have an answer, approval?
To do a diligent background check, so you can no later than September the latest.
So we should plan for having that decision by July-ish to make sure we don't have any issues. Have some discussion about it, understanding what you're looking for, why, having that call out. That's what I'd ask for is, what's the reason for that? What's the expansion points?
Okay, yeah.
And which,
Right.
looking at the Schedule 3, I'm assuming that's where the increase would go?
Are you in salaries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so which line item is page
It would.
61?
Probably.
Patrol
not
officer
even-
1.
Is it 60?
No, it would be uncertified police officer.
Oh, what's wrong?
Okay.
In the back, page 60. what's
61.
more?
61?
So it says there's 0 positions, but there is that's right, never mind. I see annual appropriation.
Oh, so they go from uncertified when they're in the academy, that's that rate, and then they move to 4, 3, 2, 1?
Right.
Okay.
So next year it would be 63 for next year's, and then the next year's budget would be 2.
Next year's
Patrolman
budget would, no, they'd probably go
4.
up to patrolman,
They would-
in January, they would go up to patrolman 4.
Got it, okay.
So it'd be 150.
I'm sorry, they'd go up to patrolman 3.
So for 24,
Right, because they would go up to patrolman 4 in June, and then January would be their anniversary to go up to patrolman 3.
so next year it would be 63, and subsequent years it would be 180 to 200. Okay.
So, can you help me understand the cost disparity between, like, what we're typically budgeting here and actual expenses?
From,
I mean, I'm just,
What
like, I
page
don't
are you
know.
on?
Which
What page
line
are you
I'm
on?
looking on page 14, just
Oh.
Page
top
14?
line numbers here. So
Okay.
like,
okay.
yeah, so like, I don't know where we're gonna end up in 23. I don't think it's gonna be substantially into 4 million plus. Like, where is the disparity coming from?
Okay, so we added an additional officer last year.
Yeah.
They also jumped the pay grades. Do you have that? So they went from the uncertified all the way up to patrolman 3, those 4 officers, where there's a 4. So they jumped 3 steps in a year.
Okay.
So they went from 60,000 to 90,000. And then come January, they'll go up to 106. So we had to split their salary and do the 90,000 for half a year and then the 106 for the second half. So they went up in pay, plus there was also the pay raise. Everybody received the 275. And we also added an additional sergeant, which was a difference of about 15, 16,000.
Okay. I don't know that that makes up like the difference between what we're budgeting and what the actual sort of has been.
There's also a couple other changes in here. There's a change to 3120.103, that's part-time clerical. That's up 14%.
Yes, because we're gonna have to hire additional part-time park staff for the summer due to the addition of the Riverfront Park. So we staff the parks from Memorial Day to Labor Day every year.
Oh, so the park checkers and the parking people come out of here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There's also,
What else we got?
of course, page 63 is missing from, because I noticed that same change. Jared, I'm trying to find where it was. 'Cause I noticed that basically I think what Jared's noticing is the same thing I was kind of asking about, which is we're up about $500,000, right? From last year to this year, right? And 40 of it is software maintenance, you know, a couple small things in between, but most of it seems to be off of personal services, which is up only 300,000, so I guess the remainder is there, so yeah. Is that accurate? So about 300 out of personnel services, which is the sergeant, the steps, and then the remainder seems to be a part-time person increase for park staff, and then,
2.75.
yep, and then the 2.75 across the board. That's the normal step as per their contract.
Okay.
I did a little Excel sheet behind, and everyone moved up by that 2 point. I did verify it, just so you know.
Okay.
So a little bit of good news. Thus far, we have contracted overtime where Con Edison, other utilities will hire officers to cover for traffic details. So far this year, we've brought back to the village $316,224.99, which came out of the overtime budget. So we did see a little bit come back.
It offset the overtime.
That's great.
Offsets the overtime.
Is that number, is the 300K listed in here somewhere, or is it just, the OT would have been a higher number?
We did
Well,
put it in the revenue, it offset the
Yeah.
overtime, plus we
Right.
do have some police department fees in your revenue.
Mhm.
Not to the 200,000 to 300,000, but there is some money in there.
Yeah.
Which should be a discussion for another time, is maybe evaluating how that's done and doing more of an additional administrative fee, which a lot of river towns have been doing.
Chief, the overtime, a number then you mentioned, that's a contractual amount, so is that, I mean, or is that number sort of commensurate with other departments as far as you're concerned?
No, I think it may be a little bit higher than other departments because of our October season,
Okay, right.
or our September through October season.
And I guess my last question, Chief, is increments out of grade. What is that?
That is a contingency fund that we had when we were down a sergeant. So it was just to cover the sergeant's overtime that was caused because we were down to 4 patrol sergeants instead of 5.
Is that a place that we continue to need that, or is that a place that is no longer
It
needed?
would be very useful in providing for special details we do, where we do need the supervision on overtime.
Oh, because overtime is, assuming overtime for 3120-103 is, I'm sorry,
It's
the overtime, sorry, the one above that that's just patrol officer overtime?
that's patrol officer, lieutenant, and above, but this would allow us to do additional patrols in certain areas.
Are you talking about the 14,000?
14,618, yep.
Right, so that's if you have any out of grade, or if anybody jumps from one position to another, if there's any step or out of grade.
Okay.
That's
Was that-
14,000. Did you see?
Yeah, but I thought we were using that for the, okay.
Yeah, it could be for, I mean, it's 14,000, almost $4 million.
Yeah,
Salary.
it's a small
It's a
small
trade.
drop in the bucket of the overall salary piece, right? But just, I warned you, I look at everything at this moment, so. What was the change in the equipment line? I guess the last one I didn't see. It's up about 5,000.
Change.
31 back on line 14, that's the last one. Unless any other questions on salaries, sure, Ms. Rodriguez.
I went from 20,000 to 25,000, at the top of .200.
Which,
Is your overall equipment.
It was 20, now it's 25.
yeah, our ammunition went up. It's actually is very frustrating with our, getting our ammunition. We just received a shipment today that we placed 16 months ago.
So basically, a lot of that, you're gonna see the underspending kind of jump up, and then that, how long, just out of curiosity, just for my edification, how long does that last?
We get 20,000 rounds, probably a year.
Training, all that stuff, basically.
Training, also, we allow professional development also, where they can come and shoot on their own time, just to improve their skills. Special schools they go to.
Any other questions for Chief Boetti? I think the simple answer is most of that one is contractual adjustments inside of pay steps.
Yeah, so the big change was that the expense line was the body cam switching over, but it's really a great asset for the department.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. Your Honor? What page, Sarah? I know it's early up front, if I remember correctly.
Page 5.
And 58.
All right, so, all right, in advance of this, I just printed up a quick, oh, thank you. It's just a Word document. Would you like them as well? Do you need copies? It's just basically what was proposed last year, or what was adopted last year, what was proposed this year, and just a space for notes, just sort of to guide the discussion. So that's what I put together. sorry, I didn't bring enough copies.
You're
Okay.
good, we can always make a copy of it,
All
just,
right.
transparency thing. Trying to make sure it's
All
there, you're fine.
So, hello everyone, my name is Catherine Baldwin, I'm the Village Justice here in Sleepy Hollow. I was thinking about it today, and I've now completed 2 years, over 2 years, so it's flown by in a lot of ways, and I've learned a lot, and I feel tremendously fortunate to be in this position. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight and speak with you about some of the budget requests this year. I haven't done this before, and I wish that I had come in earlier so we could have had established that relationship. Although I guess with COVID it was a little bit of a different experience. But I know that a tremendous amount of work goes into your jobs, managing the various interests of all the constituents in the community, and you give a significant amount of time to running the village. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So I've given you a chart, just a Word document that I put together. The left-hand column indicates the expense item. The second column is the adopted budget from last year. And the third column is requests that I've made. I don't know if everything was reflected in the mayor's adopted or the mayor's proposed budget, just because I think sometimes when you're asking for a new full-time employee, it doesn't get put in that way. So just wanted to take this opportunity to run through a couple of items with you. I think the first one is the full-time employees. So in terms of the village justice and associate justice salaries, I did receive a small increase last year. To my knowledge, I think there hadn't been an increase in a while. I'm requesting another increase of $5,000 this year. I think that's still probably below market to where a lot of the other village justices are. I'm not in this for the money, but I do devote a significant amount of time to this job. And I'm on call a lot of weekend, or almost every day except for one weekend a month, to come in. And for those of you that don't know, I just want to let you know we have court every Monday afternoon. That's the criminal court session. We have been holding civil sessions 3 Thursdays a month. It had been 2 Thursdays a month. I'm going to try and pare it back to 2 Thursdays so we can combine those sessions and maybe make it a little bit more efficient. The reason I had added the extra Thursday was to manage crowds and COVID, so we had a separate vehicle and traffic night. Now we're going to try and combine vehicle and traffic with hopefully the 4th Thursday of the month, which I think is what had been done previously, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully we can try and save a little bit of money there. But as you know, the job requires a lot of substantial time investment and flexibility, so that's the reasoning behind the small increase for the justice and acting justice.
Can I ask a quick question? Maybe this
Sure.
is more for Anthony. Do we provide health insurance for this position?
No.
All right, I did check actually, just for a little bit of it. The number you're asking is very similar, but other surrounding municipalities do actually offer that other benefits, I think, understand, just as for our identification. When you came in, I said I would check around for you.
Okay.
The number you're asking is pretty much about the area, but there may be other benefits, I think. That makes sense, thank you.
Okay. So moving on to the court clerk and the assistant court clerk, I know that this is a subject of ongoing, I believe it's a new union contract that is being negotiated between the village and the union.
Yes.
I have no role in that. I just want to say that part of the reason I initially took the job, I was appointed first and then I ran. I was lucky enough to be elected, but my 2 clerks work extremely hard and have a significant amount of responsibility in that job. I'm not there every day. I'm there when I need to be there. And they are hardworking, honest, knowledgeable, detail-oriented, organized, friendly. They're the only employees, I think, on the first floor other than the police department. So they're there, they're fielding questions every day. And they're a pleasure to work with. I have just an immense amount of trust in them, and that's what makes my job doable. So I just want to say that I know I've put significant requests in here. I believe that is, I'm not a party to the negotiations that are going on, but I wanted to make sure that my budget ask reflected what they may be asking for, saying this as a person who's not in the room. But I have tried to do some research, looking at other municipalities, other towns and villages. It's very hard to compare other towns and villages, but I think Terrytown is our close neighbor, and I think is fairly comparable in terms of size, caseload. Of course, they have Route 287, which creates its own amount of work, but so that's probably something that sets us apart from Terrytown. But I just want to note that they have just hired a new senior clerk, and the position I believe was advertised for $80,000 to $90,000 a year salary. I don't know what they eventually settled on. I believe the Terrytown budget line reflects over 100, but that may be, I believe they were going to have the clerk stay on to train, so I don't know what that number is, but I just want to note our senior clerk gets paid substantially less than that. I think she's at 70 or 72 right now, 70. And so I guess I'm just asking that the village consider bringing them up to market when they're doing those negotiations. I also want to note that with the waterfront development, our caseload only stands to increase. I know the population has increased somewhat already. I anticipate that there's still going to be more. There's increased foot and vehicle traffic along with that, and that comes with increased police interaction. We've already started to see, I think, an uptick in tickets, which creates additional work for the court. In addition, there's been several law changes recently in the last few years, which have increased the administrative burden on the court as well. So we're always just trying to keep up with everything and making sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted and things are done perfectly. Of course, there are going to be some municipalities that are higher and lower, but I just wanted to, finally, now that I have the chance to come before you, tell you how important those two individuals are. Shirley and Michelle are truly wonderful.
Well, thank you. We will not probably comment on an open negotiation
Absolutely.
for that reason, but we appreciate your feedback.
Okay. The next ask you'll see is for an office assistant, a full-time office assistant. We don't currently have a full-time office assistant. It's just the two clerks. We have a part-timer. Steve Figueredo has been helping us. Part-time, I believe he started out at somewhere around 17 hours, and now he's up to, I think, 29 hours a week. 25? Okay, thank you, Paula.
Is that our A1110103 under staffing?
Yes.
Page 58.
That includes, so last year it was not in the budget because he had come on mid-year.
That's
So-
right.
Right, so that includes a court officer plus part of Stephen's salary.
Oh, okay, so basically the person before Stevens plus this person, or is that?
No,
oh,
it wasn't
Stephen's
anybody
Security.
position was new.
Oh, that's security? Oh,
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, so I'll,
Mr. Kearns, I
yeah, I'll
believe.
get to that.
Yes.
Although I don't have those numbers in front of me, because I know with Steve, the proposal, I think you broken up, did you break it up between part-time and another line item?
Between his 17 and a half hours and
Yeah.
Bob.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And I don't know if you're gonna be getting to this, but what's the increment there?
That's the balance of what she's asking for Stephen. Is 17 and a half hours up to the full-time
And
number.
and so I'm looking at the sheet
Yeah,
that
so-
she passed out versus.
So maybe we could, so
What's
what
the-
I had proposed was creating a new full-time position for the office assistant at $50,000 a year. And the way I arrived at that was I multiplied $25 an hour times, I think it falls somewhere between 35 and 40 hours per week. That's how I got the number. I think 40 hours per week is 52.
Right, it should be 35 hours based on
Okay,
Yeah.
our
So,
union. So it would be the 29,200 less the 50
29, okay.
is what's in the 28
Okay.
less Bob Kearns.
And this person is going to be hired by the union or by the village?
It would be a union position as
Okay.
far as I know.
So the reason for the ask behind that is the court is overburdened and there's a lot of administrative duties that come with running the court every single day. We also have a lot of walk-ins from the community who come in to pay tickets, or they have questions, and sometimes they just want to chat. And having Steve there, having a third person who can take payments, facilitate that is a huge benefit. In addition, so one of our clerks, Shirley Benavides, speaks Spanish, which is another crucial quality, and Steve also speaks Spanish. And having worked in the court for the last several months, he's shown himself to be incredibly conscientious. He's incredibly kind, efficient, detail-oriented, always asking questions, exactly the kind of worker you want, and he already has had that build-up, that several-month build-up to get trained. And I think one of the benefits of having the full-time person, well, several benefits. One, we don't have a whole lot of space down there for multiple part-time people. We have a room out to the front of the court where there's a desk and a payment window, which is, I believe, where Steve sits most of the time. And in addition, you're not trading off between multiple part-time people. And part-timers are more apt to leave. So if you have the full-time office assistant, they're going to have the institutional knowledge, the experience. It's just going to be much more efficient, I think, for the court. And as I said, he's already built up a rapport with the clerks and myself and members of the community. He's doing a really great job.
So let me just ask a question related to this position. It sounds like it would need to be a union position, so does that mean that Mr. Figueredo becomes part of the union? Is that acceptable? That's the way that would work?
It's also part of the negotiation,
Yep.
but they're gonna request that it be in the
Okay.
union.
Yeah, it's a negotiation point.
Got it.
Is there?
It'd be the white collar, right?
I just wouldn't want to see him inadvertently be out of a position.
It
If
would
it's
be
a
also
union
civil
role
service,
and
right?
he's not in it.
Hmm?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just,
To answer your question, he's already passed the civil service exam, so he would be eligible. I think he's number 1 on the list. With regards to the union, he'd still be protected whether he's a union employee or
oh,
not a union employee. It's up to you guys to decide whether.
got it.
He'd be on probation for civil service, he'd be on probation for a year anyway, so,
Is there a health insurance cost associated with that role?
yes.
Yes.
We're not seeing that in this $50,000 line item. Do we know what that looks like?
I can guess what it is. If it's an individual number, it'd be around 16,000,
If they're moved to family, it's about 35.
33.
And he would contribute 10%.
10%? Is that on an individual negotiated basis, or is that across the board for all?
10% if you make less than 70,000, and 75,000, and 12% if you make more than
That's
75,000.
part of our handbook.
Also potentially negotiated too.
I did do some asking while I was there. Terrytown, I believe, has between 4 or 5 total, including the judge. So they have a couple more positions than we currently have. I also seem to remember, and I'm paraphrasing, that there was some findings regarding separation of money and security that was raised as a concern as an audit.
Yeah, so I think when the auditor was here, and again, I didn't speak to the auditor, this was given to me, this information was given to me. I know when the auditor came, I think that probably occurred in the fall, end of the summer. Time is flying. Okay. I think that he indicated that from a management perspective, it's better to have maybe one person manage the money. And so having a dedicated cashier, and I think a lot of other courts do have a dedicated cashier that takes care of that, was more optimal. I'm sure I could dig down deeper and find that report or comment if that would be helpful.
It's just more of a providing color commentary.
Right, I had that on my list too. I appreciate you bringing that up though. So I think those were the points I wanted to make with respect to the office assistant. Are there any other questions for me about that? that ask? No. Okay, so the next item, overtime, I think I had requested 7,000 last year, which we exceeded. Requested 10 this year. I just am not a good predictor of what's gonna happen in the court. Sometimes our sessions run longer. It pretty much happens every time that when I look at the schedule for that day, I think it's gonna be a short day, and inevitably I'm there longer. And the days that I think are gonna be really complicated go much more smoothly and quickly. So it's just hard to predict. I'm not saying that we would use all of that, but just knowing that I've underestimated in the past, I bumped it up. There's no specific reason I think there's gonna be more overtime. The part-time justice, not sure if I'd asked for 75 before. I upped it to 7,800 in this.
You asked for 75.
75. So I calculated, so Bob, that's all Bob, who's our part-time security officer who sits out front and takes in all of the defendants and people coming into the court. He makes 25 an hour, I believe, so I multiplied. Most court sessions, I budget 4 hours. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but that seems like a pretty good average. I know that there are some weeks where we won't have court sessions, but we just had a trial, so he was here for 2 whole days for that trial. So I thought that 7,800 was a fairly good estimate. So that's where that number is coming from. Any questions on those 2 items? No, okay. I think the next, longevity I didn't know, I just took the number from you all had provided in the budget. Most things are staying the same. Steno and translation, they've increased their rates. So that's the reason why I've bumped it up. If you're interested in knowing what the old rate was and what the new rate is, I can get that for you, but, okay. Everything else I think is mostly staying the same. So.
Any opinions on the position?
I do have a question, but it's unrelated to the positions. Oh, all right. Is there a revenue line associated with the court?
Yes,
You beat me to it.
it's
That was my next one.
54.
I do seem to remember on the revenue line that it's about 60, is that right?
It's at the bottom, all the way at the bottom, meals and fines.
Perfect, thank you.
64, you said?
54.
Oh, 54, oh. Anyway. My question was, I know there was some collection discussions regarding historical, like outstanding tickets has been outstanding. Is that something we should talk about at a future date? Is the staffing help with that, just as they?
In terms of people just haven't paid, and so usually what happens is, and that's one thing that Steve has been helping us with, there's a certain amount of time you have to wait if somebody doesn't pay. Sometimes, this is another nuance that's been added. Now, certain people can go on payment plans for BTL tickets. You can go on payment plans, and there's certain rules about that. If they make a partial payment, it's okay. So, long story short, if somebody doesn't pay, there's historical tickets that are certainly outstanding. I've just signed a bunch of civil judgments, so Steve has been helping us generate those. So usually I have a pile a week that I'm signing now. In the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to get to that. Whether we collect on those, that's outside of my purview, but I know that that's been one of the efforts and one of the projects that Steve has been helping us with.
In my opinion, it's to support the adjustment of the budget to account for a new person. We'd have to put that via a resolution, I believe, to actually bring that person in, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yes. We'd have to do a resolution at a future date, but I think for now,
Oh, yes.
my opinion is we account for additional staff given the overall piece, but I'll hear your opinions.
I would agree with that. I agree.
Yeah, same.
We plan accordingly, please. Any other questions for Her Honor? Your Honor, I apologize. Well, thank you.
All right.
We appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to
you
give
for
us
your
this
time
insight.
tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
hope that
Good to see you.
I
Thank you
see
so
you all
much.
again before next year.
Or
Thanks
hopefully,
very much.
for good reasons.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Thank you.
All right. That covers our budget presentations. Before we move to public comments, I neglected to bring something up during mayor's announcements. We did have a structure fire this week on Sunday night. I believe it was 19 Lawrence, is that right?
15, Your Honor.
15 Lawrence Avenue, thank you. I just want to say thank you to the fire departments, the volunteers, EMS, all the mutual aid partners. They call in a lot of people whenever we have something like that that happens, and just, you know, thoughts for the families that are impacted. I think that most of them were able to stay in the home. The damage is relatively limited to the exterior of the rear, but it's always, you know, unfortunate to hear. With that, we're going to move to public comments. You know, given the number of people, you know, keep it around 3 minutes. You're not going to be as hard at this, but you know, the places to go. If you've been here before, please go to the microphone, and if you're Mr. Slaney, if you wish to start.
Thank you. My name is Michael Salanti, and I've been coming to the village board meetings so I could show my input into the village, to make it a better village, to make it a cleaner village, to make it a safer village. Okay, we're gonna start off with the list. I have my list because can't recall everything by memory. That's why when you take notes from the blackboard, when you go to school, if it's on a blackboard, it's gonna be on the test. Okay, street lighting at 222 North Washington. As far as I know, the street light's still out. 147 Valley Street, the street light is out. Bedford and Route 9 on the north side is still out. The trash cans and the recycling bins along Beekman Avenue, lower Beekman Avenue, not upper Beekman Avenue, but lower Beekman Avenue, are non-existent. The trash can and recycling bin at Robinson Park has been moved about a year ago, I guess it was, when it was put on up on Route 9. Community service. Now, people who are convicted for misdemeanors have to do community service. I think those people should go out there and pick up the litter on the sidewalks. I'm not talking about on the street surfaces, but I'm just talking about the litter on the sidewalks. It's unbearable sometimes. We need parking structures throughout the village, not just here on Beekman Avenue, but other places. Valley Street, Barnhart. We need more community involvement coming to this board meeting. The more voices that are heard, the more ideas can be generated, the more stuff that can be accomplished. Clean up and maintain the infrastructure. Includes crosswalk, parking spaces, fire hydrants. I like to thank Angela Martello for her distinguished service to the community. She should be given a declaration as a woman of the year, not as for the month, but she does a lot of service both for the police department, fire department, and emergency medical services. Now we're talking about, before Angela spoke, she said something about we have a paid EMT in the daytime for the ambulance corps. Or what about a paid driver during the daytime hours, from 6 to 6. What about that? Now,
Start
it was
wrapping
brought
up
to
this
my
morning.
attention, and my 3 months are up.
Not saying stop, but just try to wrap it up.
All right. A woman from Windsor Park donated over $1 million. And I don't know what year that was, but a friend of mine had told me, so I'd like to know what happened to that $1 million. It doesn't happen to happen right now, but next time, in 2 weeks from now. We need traffic enforcement at the corner of Beekman and Broadway. People always go past the stop line, they block the intersection. God forbid there was an emergency and the fire apparatus had to get through the intersection. It can't get through the intersection with there's traffic blocking it. So that should be enforced. I don't know whether the police department's gonna do it or crossing guards doing it, but it's gotta be done. It's very important. Have to have emergency access to anywhere in the village. And if there's traffic in the way that you have to wait till the traffic moves, it could cost somebody their life. It could.
Let's take a break for 1 second, Mr. Slane, and make sure anyone else doesn't have a
All
chance
right,
to
sure.
talk, unless you're at the end.
No, I'm not done yet.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to say? You can stay, please.
Ann White of Kendall Way. Unlike this gentleman here, I ran out the door with my food scraps pails from our burgeoning project at Kendall on Hudson to get residents to save their food scraps, and I forgot my list. But the list was mainly focused on the question raised last week about hiring a traffic engineer. And now I see that resolution has been taken off the agenda. So unfortunately, Jared was not here last week because as the liaison to SHIAC, he is aware that we are beginning to embark on a review of the complete streets policy of the village, which was done in 2016. And I know that one of the changes that we will be recommending to this board is to make the planning of traffic follow the NACTO guidelines, which have now been accepted by the federal government for planning traffic. And rather than a traffic engineer, I really see what's needed is a transportation planner, which would be someone who has all the credentials of a traffic engineer, but would be looking at how all the different issues intersect. Parking. There's new parking technology where you can find out in your car where there's a parking space, so you're not driving around and around. Certainly, it's really important that the intersections that have been approved for trial new crosswalks and other treatments move forward. There's a season in which this can be done, and it's just through the summer. But the other thing that I'd like to address is which is part of it, connectivity. Having a shuttle or some way for people to move around within the village so they don't have to bring their car in. These are larger views of transportation that need to be addressed. And I think we would do well to be proactive in this way. And as to engaging more people in participating in this meeting. I believe that it's essential to have a hybrid type of system. And in fact, last week, the co-chair of TIAC was sitting beside me, and she noted that Tarrytown has hybrid access for her committee, which I often attend that way, and for the village board. And there are many, many organizations that do this. We at SHIAC work with many young moms with children who they need to feed and bathe and get to bed just at the time of this meeting. They could be available to comment during the public comment period from home if that was successful. Thank you.
And I personally at least will respond to Mr. Slaney in a second. I personally took the traffic engineer off the agenda because we had some discussion via the board offline. I didn't feel the discussion was complete. Trustee Rodriguez brought up exactly what you said, a NACDO and a transportation planner. I just felt like it was correct to go back to a board of trustees work session, educate us all about what that is, because I am wholly insufficient in that knowledge, and then quickly move to proceeding with it. Thank you. Connectivity and other types of getting people places, I'm a huge fan. Thank you. I know I haven't personally have it on my list to bring in another way of providing it as I owe to the board. I just have not got there. For the month of October, it's going to be, I'm sorry, geez, it's already October for me, sorry. April, it's budget, and then budget one more time, and then once that frees up, we'll start moving on to things. Anyone else have any comments?
Just, on the point of connectivity and shuttles, I think there's a huge opportunity to interface with the state park system on that very issue. And I can tell you that there's been a conversation with the Taconic Regional Commission about that. Not just for Sleepy Hollow, but for other state parks facilities within range of Metro North stations, which is really interesting. So I think it's worth continuing to explore. And it's potentially really exciting. Like we should be embracing that way of thinking. And I just, one other question. I think we had a resolution about starting a public hearing on stop signs, which is no longer on the agenda.
We needed 14 days for that to be noticed before it can come up. And that comes up, I believe,
25th, I think.
the 25th. We actually had to hold an extra meeting. We unfortunately noticed it inaccurately the first time for 7 days. I think I had a slip of the, was that wrong?
It's a separate, that's a different meeting.
Yes. Which one is that one?
The tax cap.
Oh, that's the tax cap. Oops. Oh, got the two confused. Sorry.
That's coming up.
That's one's coming up.
That's the 18th.
That's the 18th.
So you notice every public hearing gets noticed for 2 weeks prior to it commencing?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
I believe that's what the plan is for that.
Cool.
Any other public comments or comments from the board?
Paul Ulaco, Barnhart Avenue. What's the village plan for 195 Beekman Avenue? Will it affect the residences of Barnhart? And if so, will they be notified? Also, when the village cut down the trees from the lot of the UAW there, they left all the branches they left them against the tree or the fence that runs along the rear of Barnhart Avenue.
Thank you. I don't think we've had time to catch up, at least myself. I'm not knowledgeable on 195's current status. Anyone?
Well, just a quick clarification. I believe we refer to it as 193 Beekman Avenue, just for future reference. But the village is trying to sell that property.
Do you know for the future what it will be?
No.
I think at this time we're trying to find that person that's interested. Obviously, the village, everyone will be notified when that happens with all the due course of transparency. And then I will follow up with Mr. Smith for you on your branches.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alaka. Anyone else? Please continue, Mr. Slaney. Please keep it, we're running a little long. so-
Really quick, could I just address the Barnhart Ave gentleman really quick? So I think it's really important for the community to understand that there will be something developed there. We don't know what it will be, but the community should vocalize what it wants to see. Okay, so neighbors should show up to meetings like this and vocalize what they'd like to see there if something is to be built there. And we have control over that. We have control through our planning board. We have control over who to sell it to. So I think that's something that we need to hear from the community about, okay? Thanks.
That's a very good point, Trustee. Yes, Mr. Slanton.
Yeah, I gotta find out where I left off. Hold on.
You left off on Beekman and
Yeah,
Broadway
the traffic
access via
enforcement,
emergency
right.
vehicles.
How about amnesty for parking tickets? We'll get some revenue if we reduce the fines. And, half a barrel's better than none, or half a glass of water is better than none. So let's get at least something. I think it's very important. So have amnesty, put it on the bulletin board, and run for about a month. And after that, go back to the original way things used to be. But we'll get some revenue in the meantime. Anything's better than nothing. I like to congratulate Martin for his election and the job well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slanton. All right, North Washington, 147 Valley, I'm not sure about those two lights. We'll have the DPW take a look. Bedford Route 9, I believe that's a Con Ed light.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, we do not control that. We did have
know.
to check it. I'm just giving you the feedback. It's not not debating that. I promised I'd give feedback. That's where it went. I don't have control over that. Trash cans, we get it, Robinson Park. I did question, they will be bringing the trash can and the recycling bin back. Community service, I'm a big fan. Parking, I think the whole board is worried about parking. We'll be working on it right now. Options 1, 2, and 3 are budget. It's not for anything else, just we are volunteers as well. Angela does a great job. I'm not ever negating that. Traffic, we'll get there. Amnesty, we actually have been talking about some ideas around that. Maybe pay a discount for paying on the same day, and also an amnesty program. Yet again, we will work on that. It's just a matter of priorities right now. It is budget. We just want to let you know we did hear you. We agree with many of your things. Thank you for your feedback. One request, quicker. That's my only request. Quicker delivery.
I think amnesty is a great idea, right? Because there's a certain amount of dollars that are sort of outstanding that we should
Maybe
attempt to
next
collect.
month, 2 weeks from now, my list will be shorter. Of course, the more things I have to bring up, the longer the list. Let's shorten my list, and I'll shorten my conversation. Thank you.
Any other public comments before I close the public comment period? Yes, Ms. Wood.
Sorry, I just want to mention one more issue following this gentleman. We are working really hard on collaboration. So as Jarrett knows, we're about to launch a survey of people walking with QR codes at corners to engage more people. We're working with the PTA and we're working with people from Tarrytown because this is not an issue that stops at the border. And there are many ways in which we're collaborating. We took a trip to visit the Peekskill incinerator on Friday.
Oh, cool.
It's pretty awesome. And we invited our TIAC friends to come along. And we're trying to work more and more together with the other villages and across our community as well.
Have you visited the recycling center in Yonkers?
What's that?
Have you visited the recycling center in Yonkers?
I have not yet.
That's another trip for you to do.
That's what I'm
Very
told
cool.
I need to go there.
So I just want to say thank you for all the service that you're doing for the community.
Yes, Mr. Slant.
I'm not done, I forgot one thing. Yeah, well, that's why I write these down. Electric vehicle charging stations. I know that at present we have 2, and the village is gonna go electric, the country's gonna go electric. So we gotta extend the charging stations. I don't know if we're gonna take existing parking spaces, make them charging stations, whatever the village pleasure is, but it's gotta be done. Let's not wait till it's too late. You know, and the elevator does not go to the top floor.
I personally agree with the EV charging stations. I know there are a few of us as well. I know there's some work on Elm and some other parts with some solar panels. It would be always good to be able to get that from a renewable source. But yes, definitely on the list.
Could I just note something? So Sustainable Westchester partnered with the County of Westchester. County of Westchester just signed a deal with an EV charger installation company, and the county is offering basically like an add-on contract to take advantage of the scale that the county is going to be able to deploy at. And Sustainable Westchester is currently trying to figure out how to like offer that join-in to other municipalities. And so if there's interest, we could reach out to them and have them present to us and see if it makes sense. I know that we were thinking about it, especially since we've started to purchase EVs. And then, you know, there's a discussion to be had around public chargers, like on Beekman Avenue, for example.
Or 21 lots, or especially
Exactly,
for
yeah, exactly.
Mr. McCarthy's new electric vehicle.
Right,
What?
It's in the works, yeah.
right.
Perfect. Any other things? All right, any other comment? All right, we'll close the public comment section. Move on to resolutions. We did add one, we're gonna call it R5. I think the comments regarding the stop signs actually caught our piece that we missed that. So we're adding the stop signs to stop 5. All right, resolution 1.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow authorize retention of the attorney negotiations Verizon's franchise agreement. Whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow entering into the franchise agreement with Verizon to allow them to operate and maintain wireless telecommunications facilities in the village right-of-way. And whereas this agreement has expired and there are a need to retain an attorney to negotiation the terms in new agreement, and whereas the McCarthy Finger LLP has provided attached proposal to provide the service, and whereas then the posing escort will be primary contract from said firm, and whereas the cost of this proposal will be shared evenly with the village of Ashley, Brackley Manor, Dos Ferry, Ainsford, Hastings-on-Hudson, Irvington, Tarrytown, and Sleepy Hollow. And now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of hereby authorize the village administrations or the mayor to sign the attachment proposal, retain McCarthy Finger LLP to negotiate a franchise agreement with Verizon. So move.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Make a quick comment for everyone about just us leveraging scale of multiple villages to try to negotiate our Verizon contract and get a better deal with it. I think it's a great opportunity. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All those opposed? Abstentions? So moved.
I have a question about this one. So,
Which one?
Resolution 2, this next one. $2,500 is correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
You missed the last one. We did go
Yeah.
through, we did grill Mr. Giaccio regarding that, and it is correct. It's a very reasonable rate for a test, and we thought it was a great
Lovely.
opportunity.
Yeah, I'm just kind of shocked.
So were we.
Okay.
Plane tickets.
Right. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow approving an all-day concert. Whereas the village board is desirous of sponsoring an all-day concert to be held at Horan's Landing on June 3rd, 2023. And whereas the Rivertowns Music Group has submitted the attached proposal to produce this concert at a cost of $2,500. And whereas the village board has found this proposal to be acceptable, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the attached proposal from the Rivertowns Music Group to produce an all-day concert at Horan's Landing on June 3rd, 2023. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? We covered it. It was a great price for a good thing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow approving Phase 2 of website design. Whereas the Board of Trustees retained Schumacher Meats to redesign the Sleepy Hollow Connected website. And whereas Phase 2 of this project is to have the content coded and the final design completed at a cost of $3,240. And whereas the Village Board has reviewed this proposal and has found it to be acceptable. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the proposal from Schumacher Meats of Ossining, New York to complete Phase 2 of the Sleepy Hollow Connected website at a cost of $3,240. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion regarding the website redesign. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously.
Resolution 4, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow adopting the green purchasing policy. Whereas on September 14th, 2014, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow, hereafter the Village, unanimously voted to adopt the Climate Smart Communities Pledge, which included a commitment to decrease community energy use, realize the benefit of recycling and other climate-smart solid waste management practices, and support the development of a green, innovation economy. And whereas the village recognizes the responsibility of local governments to take effective measures to reduce or limit the environmental impacts of their operations and conserve our resources. And whereas Section 103 of the General Municipal Law, hereinafter GML, requires competitive bidding for public works projects over $35,000 and bidding or best value RFP for commodities or services over $20,000. And whereas Section 104A of the GML authorizes municipalities to purchase recycled products without a competitive bid where such products meet contract specifications and the price of such products is reasonably competitive. And whereas Section 104B of the GML requires every municipality to adopt internal policies and procedures governing the procurement of goods and services not purchased under state contract or not subject to the competitive bidding requirements of Section 103 of the GML or any other law, hereinafter purchasing policy. With such purchasing policy, subject to annual review of the Board of Trustees, and whereas New York State has established the Green Purchasing Communities Program administered by the New York State Office of General Services to make it easier for local governments to ensure that the products they purchase have a lower environmental impact, and through which participating municipalities commit to following the Green NY purchasing specifications. And whereas the village wishes to apply to be certified as a green purchasing community and to leverage the Green NY specifications, which are kept up to date with products that are better for public health and the environment. Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the village will add the following environmentally preferable purchasing section to the village's procurement policy. Where the Village of Sleepy Hollow is procuring a commodity or service, whether by competitive bid or other type of procurement, that is the subject of a Green NY procurement specification that has received final approval of the NYS Green NY Council pursuant to Executive Order Number 22 of 2022. The village treasurer shall follow the Green NY procurement specification to the maximum extent practicable and where cost is reasonably competitive as defined in General Municipal Law Code 104A. So moved.
Seconded.
This is one that we missed during the organizational meeting. We adopted this as a board last year. We should have put this in the organizational meeting. We missed it. Want to make sure we took the moment to bring it back. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Andres, for that book.
Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow to set public hearing to install stop signs on Beekman Avenue. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow hereby schedules a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter at Sleepy Hollow Village Hall, 28 Beekman Avenue, Sleepy Hollow, New York, 10591, to hear and consider comments from members of the public on a proposed local law amending Chapter 400 of the Code of the Village of Sleepy Hollow, entitled Vehicles and Traffic concerning installation of a stop sign of one or more stop signs and crosswalks on Beekman Avenue westbound at Clinton Street and eastbound at Clinton Street. Be it further resolved that the village clerk shall give due notice of this public hearing in accordance with the village code. So moved.
Seconded.
Denise?
Do you want to just amend to say 2 stop signs?
Of one or more stop signs? I think that's okay.
Yeah.
So amended to state one or more stop. It says a stop sign here and crosswalks.
4 stop signs.
It would be technically 4 stop signs, yes. I always say appropriate stop signs and crosswalks on Beekman Avenue westbound.
As long as the board is aware of what it's voting on.
Yes.
One or more stop signs. I think that's what I said, right? One or more?
Yeah.
I think we're good.
Why would there be 4 stop signs?
No, it was a joke.
Maybe there will be 5.
Stop signs everywhere. Everything.
I was gonna go 7 personally, like the odd number at an intersection.
So moved?
Any discussion? I think we had a.
We already seconded, sorry.
Did we have a second?
Yes.
Who was it?
Trustee
That was
Stetser.
Denise.
Yep.
Any discussion other than that? I'll say this is one we accidentally dropped off the agenda for those watching at home. It was meant to, I think someone caught it earlier, so we're getting better at it. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Thank you. That covers our resolutions for this evening. Any old business from the board? Any new business?
I would say that the comment earlier about EV charging sustainable Westchester, I wanted to make sure it's captured in this section so that as we refer back to old new business for future work sessions, we have that.
Can we add that to maybe the next work session that's not overloaded with budget items, please? I think that's probably gonna be the first one in May if that's not too late.
Cool. Anthony, would you like to reach out to your contact there and just ask for more information on it?
You know, or as appropriate, if you find that it's a little later than that, just let us know, but we'd like to get on and talk about it. If there's an opportunity to do it cheaper, I think that's a very viable way of doing it. I know we need a few. Mr. McCarthy, you said there was one already in plan for the lot across the street, a charging station?
We have an application in Con Edison to design a service needed to install several charging stations in that lot.
Thank you. All right. If we're good for old and new business, communications?
Yes, Mr.
Madam
Mayor.
Clerk?
We got numerous communications from Mr. Monroe on the Broadway regarding the intersection of Route 9 and New Broadway. We got a communication from Dan Conversor regarding traffic engineers. And we got a communication from Judy Nispel. She's a member of the CSC, and regarding the Ichabod's Landing bulkhead reconstruction. I forward all of these to you. You should have it.
On those, oh, please go ahead.
That is it.
On those, I will take a moment to talk to Mr. Monroe about the crossing guard, personally. And I believe there was one for traffic engineers. That's just for, I think we're addressing that in the next board work session. And then just to reassure the people at Ichabod's, I believe we are heavily pushing for that to get completed. I believe this communication was regarding from SHIAC asking for permeable space on the pathway. I'm not sure we can do that and get that done quickly. Just given the number of delays, I'm going to prioritize getting that seawall fixed over altering a plan. If we have the opportunity as we get into it to do it as a change order, we find it's possible, we'll look into it.
Just the point from Mr. Monroe on the need for bollards at the intersection of New Broadway and Route 9, the crosswalk from
Yes.
from east to west. I've spoken to Kevin about this a bunch. We've had discussions prior to our election about bollards there. Kevin was going to procure bollards in that authorization that we made, 3 of which will go at North Washington and Beekman, and others would go at this location. I marked it and then had this conversation with Kevin of where they would potentially go. But I believe that the procurement is proving to be a little bit difficult. So he's still working on it.
I will ask.
Yeah.
I will state on that, I did email the Department of Transportation, and I will continue to do so weekly until I hear a response. So if you're watching, please respond to my email. It is possible they did already, because I did not check my email today. All right, we are.
One question before we go. As far as the remaining budget presentations and timing, because like I had a thought of when we were going through line by line, how are we gonna discuss, I guess, the bigger picture as opposed to?
In my opinion, that should be done in a work session. Looking at, how many people do we have in our next work session?
2, 3.
That'd be the 24th, 25th.
The 25th.
That's gonna be a little tight.
Well, the work session is next week, Mr. Mayor, which is the 18th.
We want to do one before the board meeting on the 25th?
So if we have, we have one work session and we have 2 presentations for that, and is there anything else, or can we devote the rest of it to?
I'm more than happy to devote all the time for the work session. The budget is the most important, I think, in my opinion. But obviously, if there's something else that's hot, I think we've covered the things that were most pressing here.
Okay.
So let's go there, and if we need to make a call to add another one, we'll do so at that time and provide both of those.
Okay, sounds good.
If that's acceptable?
Yes.
All right, good. I like to ask. Make sure everyone has things. All right. Secondary public comment. Okay. No more comments for the evening? I believe, given that, can I ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you.